Welcome to this meeting of the Executive Committee of the Buckinghamshire Milton Keynes Fire Authority. It's being recorded and will be uploaded to the authority's YouTube channel. I should just note actually before we start that a late urgent item has been added relating to HMI CFRS's revisit update letter, which we'll cover after we've done agenda item 5. So we'll start with apologies for absence.
Councillor Bailey, and we've got Councillor Stutchbury substituting.
I think we know Councillor Hall is on his way, so he'll be late. Second, minutes of the last meeting. Are there any questions as to accuracy? Happy to approve. Great, thank you very much. Moves us to item number 3, matters arising from the previous meeting. So we had an item which was EX16 Performance Management Q1 to 2024-25. A member asked if a list of KPIs that had been taken out could be emailed to members. That's now been done, so that action can be closed. Item number 4, disclosure of interests. Are there any pecuniary interests members wish to disclose? So that was a no. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
None, Chairman.
Okay, so that brings us to the late urgent item. Members should have received the paper. HMI CFRS revisited the service and issued last week on Friday the 8th of November an update letter. I thought it would be helpful just before I hand over to Anne-Marie as well, just to note that we attended 3 weeks ago now, wasn't it? Yeah. The Fire Performance and Oversight Group, which is part of the oversight of us during the engage process. Just wanted to place on record, it was an excellent meeting in terms of the feedback that we got from His Majesty's Inspector, noting the progress that had been made, and we'll talk through some of that as I hand over to Anne-Marie in terms of the item. They are due to revisit us in January, and I think it was very clear to me from the meeting that the indications was they were expecting, if the trajectory continued, that we would get further positive feedback from that meeting. So I just wanted to place on record my thanks to the Chief Fire Officer and to the team overall. I know it's been an incredible amount of work over the last year making progress on these items, and it's clear that we've done a lot to rebuild confidence with HMI CFRS from the meetings that I've attended. So I think I wanted to add before I hand over to Anne-Marie.
Just to reiterate my thanks as well for the record. As you said, the team have worked incredibly hard, and actually HMIC commented, didn't they, at the speed and the progress that had been made so quickly. They were quite unexpected. So I think it's just testament to the hard work and focus that the team's put in. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anne-Marie.
Thank you. So following our round 3 inspection in 2023, the service was issued with 3 causes of concern in prevention, protection and EDI. During May and September, the HMI CFRS revisited the service to check our progress, and this paper shares the outcome of these revisits. In summary, the HMI CFRS acknowledged we have made good progress in all 3 areas, and I'll echo the 2 previous comments. We'd like to thank all the teams for their hard work in those areas. The great news is that HMIC have also confirmed that all prevention recommendations are now complete, and the prevention cause of concern is now closed. As the chairman mentioned, we will have a virtual revisit in January, and that will focus predominantly on protection and EDI. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Stutchbury.
Yeah, firstly, can I thank all the officers and team for the work that you're doing on this. It's truly appreciated. When obviously we got this report, which is now historical, and it came through, it was all quite challenging to all of us. When you work through it, it's a long piece of paper. And how would I say, we've had the start process, which is we've landed all the processes, which I respect. We're working our way through them carefully. And with the equality, diversity and inclusion issues in it, at what point do you believe we'll be in a position that, judging by the improvements that's taken place, we'll be able to land this in such a place that we can say we've done that, we've moved on, and we can put that down as a lessons learned and opportunities for the future, because with lessons create your opportunity to carry on that improvement. At what stage do you think we'll be at that? Sure, it's not tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So for every action that we've got, we have a measure of success, and that includes both KPI, it includes KPIs. So alongside when we close an action, we'll then go on and track the KPIs of progress. I think EDI, we have got 3 actions in progress, and they will all be done by the end of the financial year. HMIC, whilst we'll continue to review it, they will not close it until we have our next full round of inspection, and we won't get clarity on when that is until early next year. So I think with EDI, it's always going to be moving, and I think we're always going to develop and learn and keep moving. I think that the feedback that we've had, that we have set ourselves up in a really good place with the work we have done. We are sometimes our own worst critics, and we don't like to close stuff down, but we're really pushing ourselves to make sure that it's had an impact on our staff and we've got their feedback, and then we're continuing to maintain it and monitor it before we close it down. I don't know whether anyone wants to come from an EDI.
Obviously, I'm quite new to the service, but looking at the EDI recommendations and those that are outstanding, there has been a lot of work done in the background behind that. I think we have been possibly overly harsh on ourselves in terms of closing some of these actions down. The 3 that are outstanding, I would suggest they could be closed down by the end of the year, because the work that's been undertaken over the last 12 months has really made a difference, but we just need to finalise a few points on that. But by the end of this year, I'm confident we can close those down.
Just lastly, are we, when you do these things, and quite often something else pops up that you, through the actual work you're doing, if there's something additional pops up that you spot through your diligent work doing this, you'll bring it back through the chair and the chief to actually make us aware of it, because you may find something that we didn't actually spot. You're doing a good job. By doing that, you'll pick up things that we have missed, which we need to actually do. And I hope that you'll bring them back to us so that we can at least be aware of that work. That's the nature of doing what you're doing, which is scrutiny and the governance and improvement. You will find something that we will need to know, to note and discuss if necessary.
Yeah, I'll just come in from a HMI perspective. We'll continue to bring updates to the Overview and Audit Committee. We're also doing a lot of work on our areas for improvement. So when you have an inspection, you get a cause of concern with some recommendations, and then you also have some areas of improvement. So what we'll do is start to bring more updates on the areas for improvement as well. So yeah, we'll continue to bring updates to both the Overview and Audit Committee, the exec if needed, and the Fire Authority.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I want to put on record my pat on the back for the progress made to date. Having been here since 2013 and been through all of the iterations so far of HMI, this is the most robust response I've seen us complete. And that's, a true testament to all of your hard work and the reshaping of the service with the roles that we now can see in front of me right now in there. I think I'm the longest serving, apart from Councillor McLean, I think, on the authority now, should probably. 2 questions I have. Firstly, we've now had them come back in accordance to the report in September. So we kind of know the questions that they're like kicking the tires with. Have we considered doing a informal kicking of the tires, maybe asking another service to come in and do that for us, or an alternative group of people to come in and really give us a kicking on it, as it were, so that we are more prepared for when they come in, because we now know the questions they're going to ask and where they're looking. And yes, I know we're looking at the evidence all the time, and it's really good to hear, Mr. Davidson, the progress, and you think that we'll be there by January. As a former holder of the portfolio for EDI, I agree that it is one of those things that will always be a moving beast. And we can always do more, no matter even get to 99, 100%, we will always be able to do more. And I think that's really important. The last thing is the budget provision for this, to make sure that we, and it's a look at Mr. Hemming to say, the budget provision here to make sure that not only just do get to this next inspection and hopefully good, outstanding, marvellous, but actually we've got sustainable budget in there to ensure that progress continues. Thank you.
So yeah, we do look at different options for peer reviews. We have had a peer review previously on protection, but I was just going to pass to Doug, who can give an update on the peer review, and then also running on some of the work we're doing with other services.
Yes, so I'm conscious I'm probably talking predominantly for protection here, but over the course of the last 12 months, there's been so much engagement with different services, NFCC, protection, but also around EDI. And I know Ronnie's been having conversations with colleagues since he's been in service, in other services. So we did do a piece of work around our action plan for protection, and that brought in Derbyshire Fire and Rescue, but that was very much kind of informative stages of, do the actions that we propose feel about right? We've actually made arrangements for Surrey Fire and Rescue to come in and do a peer review with us over the next couple of months in terms of where are we now. So we've said we've delivered on all those actions. We're pretty confident that we have, and we're in much better shape. But, exactly as you say, to get that kind of support from another service. When they come back in January, we do know what, we know what we need to demonstrate. Really, it was quite disappointing, if I'm honest, around protection, because I think the foundations are pretty strong now, and we talked to HMI in September about, now it's about kind of continuous improvement and kind of being a really high performing function. But essentially, I think the feedback was, we still want just that little bit more confidence around sustained improvement around some of the finer points. So we're in really good shape, and the Surrey support will help to just kind of demonstrate that, I think.
So firstly, thank you for your kind words and the amount of work that's gone into this. It has been a phenomenal amount of work that's taken to kind of turn us around and get us to where we are now, which is a really positive position. In terms of sustainability and budget going forwards, members will be aware we're currently producing our community risk management plan, kind of the next 5 years, which will come to the Fire Authority for approval in December, so next month. In terms of peer review, we've had that kind of externally assured by a company called Mazars, who have looked at how it aligns with both the fire standard and recommendations from HMIC FRS about how we improve based on the last public safety plan, kind of areas of improvement there. They've identified some gaps which we've now built into that version. You'll see those changes come in December that we've made to enhance that. Also, as part of preparing the community risk management plan, we've taken on board all HMIC FRS feedback, both around causes of concern and areas for improvement. So that's built into that. And when we bring the budget in February, you'll see that's very much aligned to the CRMP and also our annual delivery plan to ensure that kind of all our strategies aligned to moving us to where we need to be, and it's sustainable going forwards, both in terms of delivery and also budget as well.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, just on the peer review, we've also asked Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service to come in and do a peer review looking at our employee relations standards in terms of case management, policies, disciplinaries, grievances, how we handle cases. So they'll be coming in November, December to do a review with us. So there's some great relationships going on with other services.
Good. So just a couple of things just to add. So just on the external review stuff, I have to say it's one of the most impressive parts of the FPOG slides that the team take the room through, which is the degree of external engagement that the team has made in terms of seeking expertise, review and challenge. And I think it's fair to say we've also now had some people coming to the service asking for support the other way. So I think that's been one of the reasons why the team's been able to show so much progress. So if we haven't in previous papers, I think we have, but if we could perhaps just circulate with members just that breadth of support that you've taken, because it is impressive. I just wanted to pick up on the point that Doug made around protection as well, actually. And I know I've said this to officers privately via an email, but I'll say it publicly. I think don't be too hard on yourselves on protection, because actually it was a new cause for concern from last year's report, whereas prevention had been one that we'd been working on for a while. And actually it was really clear to me from the meeting that they recognise the significant progress that's been made on protection, but they have this high bar that they set, which is around it being sustained and sustainable. And I think that's the bit that in January I'm certainly got the sense they were expecting that the trajectory would continue to show that. So I do think it's important people don't be too disappointed by the protection, because I genuinely think the progress was noted, and I think the letter reflects that as well. Okay, if there's no further comments, we're being asked to note the letter. We have to do so. Good, thank you very much. Sorry, it's remiss of me, actually. I meant to do this at the beginning of the meeting, and I realised as we started that I failed to do so. So can I firstly welcome Councillor Lancaster to his first meeting of the authority. Good of you. It's good to have you on board. Secondly, just wanted to welcome Simon Tuffley to his new role as our Deputy Chief Forester. Good to have you with us. And also Doug in his temporary Assistant Chief Fire Officer role. So welcome all of you in your new positions. So next item is Budget Monitoring Report. Hand over to Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a continuing running theme with the budget report that we are in a better position thanks to the main headcount remaining above 300 and interest rates remaining higher than initially anticipated at this stage. I won't steal all of Asif's lines today, as I have done the previous few meetings. But just to say, I think in terms of bank costs, they are now starting to level off. Now we're starting to find, the natural trend in the budget. And of course, like we talked about previously, we have put significant investment in new roles and resources, which is helping the service on its improvement journey. But I promised I wouldn't say any more, and I won't, so I'll hand over to Asif to go through the detail.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Good morning, members. The report in Appendix A outlines the authority's revenue and capital spending as of 30th September 2024, along with the projected financial year end position. The budget of 39,470,000 compared to the forecast outturn of 38,635,000 indicates a projected year-end underspend of 835,000. As Councillor Walsh alluded to, the main reasons for this underspend is lower direct employee costs resulting from reduced bank shifts, reduced costs in on-call due to vacancies, as well as vacant support positions. This is all illustrated in tables presented in section 2, 3 and 4 of the report. Additionally, the last bit I just wanted to mention in terms of revenue was Treasury. Our investment returns have been higher than what we would have expected due to the base rate falling at a slower pace than what we had anticipated. In terms of capital, I can confirm all operations and staff from Unit 7 have been relocated and the building has been handed back to the landlord on the 30th of September. In terms of property works, Appendix B sets out a detailed plan of works for 24-25. To date, various works have been completed at stations and HQ, which are detailed in the appendix. The other area we see significant capital expenditure in is fire appliances and equipment. Spending to date on fire appliances and equipment includes the purchase and delivery of hydraulic sets, fire ground radios, BA equipment, and the first and second stage payments for the 3 fire appliances. The 3 fire appliances and a workshops van are due to be built and delivered in the third quarter of 2024-25. Orders for boats and trailers have now been placed. Even the report states that they are due to be placed. I can confirm they have now been placed. That's all I was going to talk about in terms of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Stutchford.
First, can I thank officers and Matthew for the work that's been undertaken, and looking at the figures, they look more robust than they have done in the past. The good question would be, I was reading the annual report of 2015, and in the annual report of 2015, the authority took that decision, which is probably still a regulatory decision, that it cut the tax in 2015, the council tax, and it said it in its annual report. We also had the discussion last year where we were fortunate, the government allowed us to grow our council tax precept request. Do you feel that decision to do that is going to mitigate for the loss of the additional precept that we would have had from 2015 to now, which is not a decision of anybody here, but it's still in the base of what we're working for, and it's working. If anyone wants to go back, you can read it. It's actually public record on the annual report of 2015. So it's just to know that where we are, where we settle, and what we do going forward, and whether that money we're allowed to raise will be a feature in the future, or whether that was a one-off, and because we do need resources ever more so with the growing population in Buckinghamshire to meet our need. It's one reads things and just feels it's still there, present in the bottom line.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. That's a good question. I must admit, as officers, I tend to focus on what we have now and what we've got for the future. You know, in the past, we could have made different decisions, but since then, we've also had the precepts increased twice by £5, and that has helped us to kind of maintain our reserves. I do get your point about the past, but I can assure you we're focusing on what we have now and ensuring that we can have a sustainable budget for the future. When we have conversations with the lead members, we kind of highlight all our concerns and ensure that we're in a good position, that if we are ever given the precept flexibility, we put a clear case forward. And I'm quite confident that we'll get the support from our members if that decision has happened. Whatever's happened has happened in the past. I'd like to focus on what we can do for the future and ensure the service is sustainable for the future.
Thank you. I respect that, and I think that's a sincere answer. But the £5, have we got any indication whether we're going to be able to carry on that basis, or whether we're going to be in a much more tighter fiscal thing going forward? Because it's important so that we can do what we need to do for the period for the next years.
In terms of precept flexibility for the coming year, that's still to be determined. We're hoping that MHCLG will put out a policy statement later this month, which will give us an indication of potential referendum limits. But until we get that, we just don't know. But we're preparing on both scenarios, as I've said, for the coming year.
Very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, Councillor Lambert?
Thank you. Questions on the capital programme. There are 3 items in here which I've got a question about. Firstly, Stokenchurch, where we have works. This is on page is it 28? No. 29 of the pack. New roof, guttering, downpipes, risk to progress. And as far as I know, this is an on-call station that's mostly mothballed. And my question is about where that fits in. Should there be a property review, and also about appropriateness of that particular building if we're going to continue to maintain it and put a new roof and guttering and downpipes on it. If it's not something that's going to feature in the future, is that actually an investment that we need to do? I'm not saying we should close it, for the record. I'm just saying, can we review it? The next part goes on to Gerrard's Cross and Buckingham, same page, about the EDI wellbeing spaces of individual rest areas not being started until January to March. They are really important. It's just put on record my thought process around where we're going with the EDI and support for the inspectorate, that we don't lose focus of those, and that, you know, if this is not started in them because that's when the budget provision is, fine, but it doesn't say why it's not in there. Yeah, those are my only 2 questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so in terms of Stokenchurch, as noted in the report, we've had a number of emergency works this year, which we've had to kind of address more urgently. And that's part of the reason why we put that off, as well as kind of looking at the longer term future of these stations in terms of what we want to do with them. So yeah, I fully understand where you're going with that one. In terms of Gerrard's Cross and Buckingham, they are new pieces of work that weren't originally on the plan for this year. So we went round, we've engaged with every single station, done kind of a property standard review in terms of where our gaps are in terms of ED&I. And these ones as kind of day crewed stations, the way we're doing them now, where we sometimes put bank shifts in there at night, they're now being used for a purpose that they weren't originally designed for when they were built 30, 40 years ago. So they've come up as a high priority. So they're new items that have only been added in the last month or so. Hence why we're kind of kicking off one this month and then one early in the new year, just in terms of sequencing of works and getting those, because they are really high priority and absolutely understand the importance of those. So we're aiming to deliver those as soon as we can.
And it was just as you were completing your sentence there that it came back into my head about our response times under HMI and our workforce planning model, and how Stokenchurch actually impacted that, because it was a temporary spot. It is a mothballed state. It's not going to. We can't hide from what it is. But it's a case of we do need to make a decision on that sometime soon, because that will continue to impact that part of the HMI as well as our budget provision going forward. Bear in mind, I'm still not saying close it. I'm saying we need to review it.
Yeah, so just for clarity, absolutely no decisions have been made on any on-call stations, but we have, as part of our CRMP, committed to review our on-call model and how we provide that over the next 5 years. Because as you say, HMI have noted, they refer to what they call the ghost fleet, in terms of we have some appliances that aren't used very often, but we do absolutely need the on-call to provide us that resilience for those once every 2 or 3 months events that happen, where we do need a large number of appliances, where we get like a really big incident or a number of simultaneous incidents. So we are looking at all our on-call, and it's not as a cost-saving measure, it's a effectiveness measure to make sure we're getting the best value for money from all our appliances across the whole service. So yeah, that piece of work will be ongoing, and hoping to do that early in the lifetime of the CRMP.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. And just following up from the comments from Councillor Stutchbury and Lambert, and just to be looking at as an executive, as an authority, what we've achieved in the past few years. Moving that headcount to the full establishment, not repaying debt early and keeping it invested in terms of improved returns, and pushing for the exit of Unit 7 is one of the 3 reasons why this authority is now in a position to undertake a full review of its property assets. And we are continue to invest the improvements, in particular in the crew facilities at High Wycombe is a prime example that we are focusing on all of our firefighter team.
Thank you, Councillor McLean.
Thank you. A couple of questions. One's relating to page 24, the fire appliance and equipment. In terms of capital, are we confident that we will in fact deliver 3 fire appliances, 2 wildfire units, 2 boats and trailers? I know the water carrier is going to be put back, but are the others on track to be delivered this financial year?
Yeah, in terms of the appliances, yes, I've had confirmation today that will get delivered no later than Q4, but we are still hopeful that it'll be in Q3. In terms of the van, again, yes, we're hopeful we will. In terms of the wildfire unit, potentially we'll get 1 by the end of this financial year, depending on delivery date. And in terms of the boats and trailers, the orders have just been placed now, so it's very likely that they may potentially slip into the next year, but the order has been placed and we'll probably get it soon after March 2025.
So does that mean they'll be committed in this year's financial accounts rather than carry forward?
Yeah, so we would then put a slippage request in at the end of the year to carry that budget forward.
And the second question is, what's the impact of the budgets on our costs going forward? Is any view on that yet?
So in terms of the budget, it's quite high level, so it's really hard to determine with any degree of accuracy what the impact may be. I think potentially there's some impacts in terms of if employers pass on increases in national living wage and also employers' NI increases. There's a risk there in terms of our suppliers, depending on what extent they absorb those costs, what extent they pass them on. It may have an extra impact on kind of the provision we have to make for inflation going forwards. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on that over the coming months to see what extent and what effect that has. We'll keep members up to date on kind of what we put aside for future inflation as part of the budgetary provision. But in terms of the detail around our funding, that's probably going to come as part of the policy statement and the provisional settlement, which will come at the end of December.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And firstly, apologies for my late arrival. I was on time, but I was in the wrong building. So note to self, read the minutes first. In terms of the water carrier, I see that it's unlikely to be delivered in this financial year. Are we likely to see it arrive before next summer? So that's obviously the peak season when water carriers see their use.
That is my understanding. It will come in. What we wanted to do was give a definitive answer. Will it be delivered by 31st of March 2025? It's unlikely, but we expect it to be soon after. But we will follow that up with the suppliers and ensure that it is here in time. And if there are any delays, I'm sure I'll be able to advise yourselves in future meetings.
Councillor Lancaster.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask on page 28 with implementation of MTFP capital works in High Wycombe, it's mentioning of the various works from 22 to 23 condition survey, and I'm noticing that's now being carried forward as a slipping request, as there's a risk to the progress being done. Have we got, so do excuse me, it being my first meeting, do we have evidence of a condition survey for 23-24 and are ready for one for 24 to 25? My worry is that we keep putting in slipping requests for something that I understand isn't as urgent as it needs to be, but if the buildings start to deteriorate as bad as what we're getting in here for upgrades, I don't want it to be something that just keeps getting slipped on. So do we have the condition surveys available to be able to say that we're prepared for the time by March 2025?
So thank you for your question. In terms of condition surveys, it's not something we do every year. We do it once every 5 years in terms of looking at all of our estate, and we get someone coming externally and they look at every single nut and bolt and everything, and they give us a full list, and we schedule that over a 5-year programme. There's some stuff in that has slipped. Wickham's one of the ones that has slipped. There's some stuff in that we think is a quick win and we bring forward. So we're continually managing slippage and carry forwards and brought forwards to make sure we can deliver it in year. Wickham's kind of one of our kind of biggest items. So in terms of the condition survey, it gets every property gets a rating of A to E, I think it is. Most of our properties are A's and B's with a few C's. Wickham came out as a D. There's a whole history behind it going back probably about 10 years in terms of the council wanted us moved and they didn't, and they did. So we haven't done any work significantly on Wickham other than the works Councillor Walsh mentioned around employee welfare, dormitories, mess area and things like that, just to make it a bit better for our staff and improve the ED&I on station as well. So Wickham is a big piece of work. Ideally, we'd knock the whole thing down and rebuild it from scratch. We just don't have the money to do that at the moment. But we are going to bring back kind of an options paper next year as to all the different things we could do with the Wickham site. So yeah, that's kind of probably our biggest challenge in our estate is High Wycombe.
Good, thank you. Just a couple of things from me. So firstly, just I recognise that they were initiated out of the wildfire review, but I do think personally we should start referring to them as rural firefighting vehicles, because they will do more than just deal with wildfires, and I think it would just help in terms of understanding the nature of the vehicles. Second, just on my favourite graph, which is the one on 21, which is the whole time establishment roadmap. It's obviously good to see the pattern of the apprenticeship recruitment, and actually broadly we're maintaining the establishment. I know that what happens in between are transfers, direct recruitment, etc. But obviously you're not showing that for reasons I understand. What might be helpful, just to give us confidence that we're not going to slip below, is if you could give us a look back picture of the number of transferees or direct recruitment that you've had in the previous quarter or 6 months, just so we can be confident that those, because if you look at it, you would say we're not going to recruit between February 25 and September 25. And I know that's not what you're saying, because there'll be other forms of recruitment. So if we could just show that picture just to give us confidence. And I will just ask, are we confident we're going to maintain the establishment figure over the next 12 months? Because at the moment there is a dip in 25, 26. And then just just coming back to the capital programme, we have done a lot, and I think the team should be congratulated for the progress that's been made. I suppose my one slight concern is that for Broughton, Beaconsfield and Buckingham, we are talking about end dates of December 24, where the commentary is out for quotations. And just to understand the timeline of where are we with those quotations, because we're in mid-November, so will all of those works have completed in December 24 as per the plan?
So I'll take the last question first. So this report was written kind of as at the end of September, so that it's progressed since then. So I don't know exact detail, but I'm aware the team are working on that and are progressing. So still hopeful of hitting those December deadlines. In terms of the reference to rural firefighter vehicles, yeah, absolutely. We can have a look at how they're badged up, because you say they will be for wildfires, but they can be multifunctional as well. In terms of doing the review, we've done a lot of look at what kit goes on those, and this kind of the scope has slightly broadened from wildfires, which is good because they can be utilised in many different ways throughout the year, not just during peak wildfire season. So really useful assets. And in terms of the look back around the recruitment, yeah, absolutely, we can have a look at that. There will be slight bits where we may dip very slightly below 300, but that's just purely a timing issue as to when we can get slots for training with the college and timing of recruitment campaigns. But it's something we look at continually and will monitor even more closely going forwards under the new kind of service delivery group for people.
I'll just make my regular entreaty to you, which is that the that when you've having put all the hard work in to get to the establishment level, the moment that you allow it to slip, what will happen is pressure will build back into teams. It will drive attrition up, etc. So just, so the message from the authority will always be that establishment level was hard fought. You did lots of work to get there. So just everything that's needed to maintain it at a level we would encourage.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. And we saw a similar thing with vehicles in the past where we didn't kind of maintain our vehicle replacement programme and we let it kind of drift for a little while for budgetary issues. Once you dip below, it becomes really hard to catch up. So we absolutely want to maintain that momentum on vehicles, on staff, on everything we do.
Sorry,
so just on the graph as well, I think it'd be good to kind of point out that where it does dip twice, you've got to kind of look at that Q2 levers column and the column next to it, because they both have the same end date. Both dates are actually September 31st. So I'd kind of combine it. And I think that's something for us to kind of take back and how we illustrate that. Because once we combine it, actually at no point we are dipping below 300. So that's something I'll have a look at with the individual that produces it and see if we could illustrate that a bit better.
Agreed. Thank you. Good. Are we happy? I'm going to move us on, Councillor Stuff, if that's right, because I think you've already contributed to this debate as well. So we're being asked to note the provisional outturn forecast for the authority as of 30th September. Happy to do so. Thank you. That moves us on to item number 7, the reward and recognition review. Councillor Hall. Apologies, yes, sorry, officers can excuse themselves. Right, Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I hope you've all had a chance to read the report. It's a little bit sensitive in terms of what we're asking here. I'll hand it over now to Ronnie to talk us through it.
Thank you very much. Morning, everyone. So in accordance with the good practice of Scheme of Conditions of Service of the National Joint Council for Brigade Managers Fire and Rescue Service, in brackets the Gold Book, a review of senior management bonus pay has been undertaken. It is recommended that the bonus payments are not paid to the senior management team in the current financial year. Subject to the Executive Committee approval, a review of benchmarking exercise of reward and recognition will commence. There's a bit of background information. Previous work has been undertaken by South Eastern employers, focusing on pay scales for support staff and also looking at employee allowances. Since I've joined the service, I've been looking at the reports produced by South Eastern employers. That work is ongoing. I do believe that further work needs to be undertaken to review reward and recognition within the service. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Lambert.
Thank you. Having held Councillor Hall's portfolio for a number of years, we've done this a number of times, and we've asked those questions a number of times. Firstly, as a point of principle, we've never called them bonus payments; they were merit awards, and we did that on purpose. The bonus system, as was introduced just before my time, after 2010, before 2013, as a kind of a prod to reform the service, to change the way that we operated and to make us more efficient and so forth. Old language, very old language, and we didn't have the pressures we have now then, and it served a purpose at the time. While I was the portfolio holder, we tried a number of times to remove that from our pay policies. We never quite achieved it. And South East employers have earned a lot of money from us over those years. And I noted this year it's still another £18,000. While I don't think we've paid that much before for that, it's still a sum of money each year that we're paying for them to do an iterative report.
Yeah.
So slightly frustrated that here we have it again. I understand why we're doing it, and we have to do it because we have to have an answer at the end of it. But the answer at the end of it I do believe should be a change of our policies, and we need to change the policies
Yeah.
because I believe we are one of 3 in the whole country, fire services, that do and I'm going to use the word that's in the bonus payments for our senior management team. And I don't think it's appropriate. And officers, even at the time, and the former chief fire officer and so forth, we had this iteration every single year. So from my perspective, looking forward to the report that comes back out of SE, but I really would like to see some action come out of it this time that is sustainable and achievable, changing the policies, making sure that if there is a merit award scheme, not a bonus scheme that has all the wrong connotations, a merit award scheme for all staff, should that be appropriate, should be the policy. That's where I'm going to go with that one entirely. And I look forward to the report coming back out, which I know what it will say. So already, I could have written it for you, but I won't. Thank you.
I agree. I'm quite new to the service. So what we're looking to do here, from my perspective, is do a full review, of our policies, procedures, the employment offer for all staff, allowances, across the board. A piece of work needs to be undertaken. I understand historical work has been looked at. South Eastern employers have done some recent work that I'm currently reviewing to see what they've actually produced. So I need to look at that and thoroughly understand what they're recommending. But I do believe in my short time with the service, there does need to be a more holistic review of the employment offer to all staff. And that's what the purpose of this paper is looking for, that approval to take that forward.
Yeah, just to support what Ronnie was saying, the bit with South East employers that you referred to that we've done in the past was purely around senior management team merit awards and doing an analysis of kind of what others are paying, our performance against others. We haven't used them for that purpose for the last few years. We've done all that work internally. The bit of work we're referring to here, as Ronnie said, is a much broader look at pay reward recognition across all our staff, not just across the senior management team. And I alluded to things such as in the budget, the national living wage increase. The impact that is now having is it's starting to eat into our scales. So it's already kind of consumed scale A and scale B from April next year, depending on what the national increase is for support staff. It may eat scale C as well. So we need to have a start to look at resetting some of those scales potentially. So the work that South East employers are doing this time round is much broader, hence it being a much bigger figure than you've seen in the past.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you. Question is, are South East employers and the only body that could do it? Because they've been with us for a long time. Is there a tendering process you're going through to see what other organisations could do the work, Ronnie?
Yeah, that would be my next stage. I want to review what they've done up to now, because there was work undertaken previously in 2024. I've received the reports from them. There's a lot of detail in them, but I'm still sort of unclear as what the recommendations are or what they're proposing. The 18,000 that's mentioned within the paper, I don't believe that's been paid as of yet, because they haven't finalised the work that we've asked them to do. So that's my job, to look at what they've done and see whether or not that merits what they've recommended. Going forward, my preference would be we do look outside of South Eastern employers and look at other opportunities here where we can change the landscape. As I said, look at the employment offer as a whole and really put some momentum behind this, rather than trying to put a sticking plaster over it and we kind of tear it up, if that makes sense, strip it back and start again in terms of looking at the employment offer. The allowances side of it's very nuanced, as I understand, within the service. I'm still getting my head around that. It's complex to an extent, but I strongly believe it just needs somebody to sit down and look at it from a administration perspective, iron out all the different allowances where they sit across the service, at least understand that in the first instance, then build upon what we need to do going forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Stutchbury.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for the contribution. What I would like to understand, what's the objective of the change? So if we have what we're trying to achieve from it, I think that's been expressed in the sense of doing the pay across the board. I think any future paper needs to recognise that and show that it's an uplift, not a downturn. in employment opportunities and wages. And secondly, to seek assurance that the pay bonus scheme that we call it, and I like the term, we've used a different term for it in the meeting, was it part of an employment when we employed those people into a role, that they knew that when they came in, because there's an employment issue there, that they took on a job knowing that that was going to be an opportunity. So that's an employment right that needs to be checked, that it was an add-on, not part of what their contract of employment was, because we can't be doing that if it's in their contract of employment. And lastly, we do need to take account of how we reinforcing the points made about inducement and encouragement across the piece, from the bottom of the organisation to the top of the organisation. So I would welcome something that looked at how we do that, or plan to do that, against the fiscal realities that we live in. But the £18,000, as I think Councillor Lambert said, sat there as an expense, which, if it was used differently, could probably be used for some of that project of reward and bonus across the piece. It may be small amounts of money per person, but it's rather a thank you. So we're giving money to someone but we might want to use in some other way. I believe that what you'll do is come back with something which encapsulates all that. And if it's a long question, it's because it's a long process. And they're back to so seeing how you're going to do it. I hope.
No, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And if I can give a short answer to that, it is a, sorry to repeat the point too much, it does need reviewed, and it does need a slight different take maybe what's happened in the past. So if I take support staff pay scales, for example, they're only on a 2-point pay scale, which has led to some frustration, as I understand it, among support staff. They've only got the first stage and a second stage, and then there's a ceiling there. So that can lead to disengagement with support staff, for example. So that needs looked at. There's a number of different allowances across the service which aren't particularly succinct in terms of how HR can review those and understand those. That needs to be addressed as well. So there's different aspects to this that need to be reviewed, and the recommendations that we undertake from that will obviously feed back to yourselves and bring that back in the coming months.
Lastly, do you envisage this work being done this fiscal, or is it for the next fiscal? Because it looks a big body of work.
I'm being honest, next fiscal, just because of the amount of work that's involved. But there are stages to it that we could make movement. I don't want to commit to that today, but there are certain aspects that could maybe make some progression quicker.
Good. Whilst I'm in a very positive pre-Christmas mood, we just maintain a little bit of discipline of coming through the chair when I ask questions. Just a couple of quick things from me, if I may. So, sorry, Councillor Lancaster, did I see your hand go up? Apologies.
Not a problem, Chair. Thank you. Where we've got the Appendix 1 on page 33 under the reward and recognition review, one of the bullet points says identify clear metrics for measuring outstanding performance in consideration of potential future bonus payments. And following on from what Councillor Lambert said, is that it's that word of bonus that I'm not liking, if I'm honest. So I would feel more comfortable if we're looking at considering these objectives, that we was to put something along the lines of in consideration of potential rewards and recognitions payments, rather than potential future bonus payments, if possible.
Okay, thank you.
So just to pick up on a few of the points, I have enormous sympathy with Councillor Lambert's position, and I know we've discussed the fact that we have to once and for all resolve this issue of the payments to the senior management team, because we go through this every year, and every year I know the senior management team are not expecting us to make them. Therefore, it just seems pointless having it, and I think we do need to resolve it once and for all. And I suppose I know it's drifted over the last year for various reasons, and I welcome Ronnie. Now you're going to drive this hard. I suppose my only just observation, having reflected on it, the timeline that you've set in the back of the paper. Can I just encourage you to look at how you could potentially do that a little bit faster? The reason being that will be going to a new authority meeting in June. and it's not beyond the realms of possibilities that authority will be coming at it fresh, whereas actually there's a lot of experience sitting around the table of people that have been now through this several years. So I actually think if we can look to bring that to an earlier, whether it's April or May meeting, I think that would be welcome rather than doing it at the annual, because it's not necessarily a good item for a first new authority to be looking at. And I think the point that Councillor Lancaster has just made is a really good one. I suppose I think it's implicit in the paper. But just to pick up on Councillor McLean's point, I think we would be supportive of you looking at a different way of doing this than feeling as though you need to do it through South East employers. So I think the paper gives you the freedom to do that. I'm sure your existing delegations give you that freedom, but just find the best mechanism to get the best outcome that you can get, so you get the best final position on the paper. So we're being asked to do two things. Firstly, we're being asked to agree that bonus payments are not paid to the senior management team in the current financial year. Are we happy to agree with that recommendation? Thank you. And secondly, that a review of reward and recognition processes of BFRS staff extended.
I was going to suggest.
Okay, right. Just don't want to step out of line, Graham, so hold me to account. Good. Right, moving us on to item number 8, exclusion of the public and press. To consider excluding the public and press representatives from the meeting by virtue of paragraph 1 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as the reported minutes contain information relating to any individual, and paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as the reported minutes contain information relating to the financial or business affairs of a person, including the authority. And on these grounds, it's considered the need to keep information exempt outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Are we happy to do so? Oh, sorry, Councillor. Yeah, no, we do that. Don't worry. We need to agree at first, though. Yeah, don't worry. We've done it a lot. We've done it a number of times. We know what we're doing. That's all right. And we're happy to agree. Thank you.